Hello, good morning and welcome back to Jordan. I have taken a bus south to the iconic site of Petra, one of the 7 wonders of the world, and it cost me around £10, 10 Jordanian dinars for the jet bus, which leaves once a day at 6:30 a.m. I then stayed overnight here and then I'm up early this morning. This is the entrance to the site. It's quite nice. The town here is called Wadi Musa. I recommend staying in the town rather than taking a day trip. I'll talk more about all this kind of stuff once I head inside. Let's go for it. At this point in the video, I explained that I picked up my Petra ticket for 50 Jordanian dinars, which is a mistake. Don't do this. Before you arrive in Jordan, go on the internet and buy the Jordan Pass. 70 JD will get you full entrance to Petra for 1 day, including your visa on arrival in the country as well. I didn't know about this and I paid 40 Jordanian dinars for my visa on arrival at Amman airport, and then I spent 50 on the Petra ticket. So that did not add up well. 90 JD, where I could have saved 20 JD if I'd bought the Jordan Pass, which includes your visa, but also entrance to over 40 attractions in Jordan. It makes perfect sense to pick up this pass if you're planning to travel around the country for more than 4 days and you want to visit Petra. Up ahead here are the DJINN blocks. Now, jinn is the Arabic word for spirit, and some say, I think, that these are supposed to signify the start of the tombs, but no one really knows their significance, to be honest. Some tombs already on the left here. Now about to start walking through the Sikh. It's a pathway leading for about over 1 kilometer with steep cliffs on either side. I was told by a few people in the city yesterday that it is quiet at the moment for the reasons I mentioned earlier, COVID, the time of year, etc., Omicron, but I did not expect to have the whole place to myself upon entry. I mean, there are a few people walking around here and there, but for the most part, I was thinking this was all going to be so crowded and making a video would be difficult. I'm going to continue on to perhaps the most famous and iconic tomb here in Petra, which I have read a lot about and seen pictures of since my childhood, and probably many of you have. It's called the TREASURY. So we're just going to keep making our way through the incredible Sikh here, which rises up to 200 meters in some places and gets as narrow in the gorge here as just 2 meters. I am transported back in time a little bit. The only thing I can hear are the birds above me and the sound of the wind, and that's it. Some parts of the Sikh you can really find moments of silence. After walking along through the Sikh for about a kilometre and a bit, here we are by the Treasury, Petra's most iconic facade tomb, and it gets its name not because it looks like the front of a bank, but apparently an Egyptian pharaoh hid his treasure here in an urn, giving it that name, and it served as a tomb for King Aretas III. Just absolutely incredible. The walk through the Sikh there really brings home how hidden and protected this city would have been. Kind of quiet, I would say. If you've been to Petra, let me know how this compares, but there isn't actually so many people around. It's probably worth mentioning that along with other world wonders like the pyramids of Giza and the Great Wall of China, it's no different here. You will be hassled a fair bit. I've probably been asked 20 to 30 times if I want a ride up to the top to get a picture with the Treasury. And at the beginning I was like, no thank you, shukran, shukran. And then after a while, when it was like guy number 20 asking me, I kind of was like, listen, stop asking me. And then he guilt tripped me by saying, you know, people need to make a living here, etc. Made me feel pretty bad about telling him where to go, but at the same time, it's testing at times when you get bothered so much and you have to say no 3 or 4 times in a row. But there you are, that's just the way it is when you visit places like this. Of course, lots of souvenirs around, as you would expect. Small figures of camels and all sorts relating to Jordan and the site. Fridge magnets, I always pick one up wherever I go. I have one from every country I've visited. This here is known as the Street of the Facades because there are a lot of tomb facades on both sides. Tombs absolutely everywhere you look. You can see that the afterlife was very important to the Nabateans, who arrived here in around the 6th century BC, but they were not the first people at this site. They were the ones that created this place, but there is evidence from around 7000 BC that Neolithic villages were here in the rocks and the hillsides. Now the sun is up properly, you can see a lot more why it's nicknamed the Pink City, because the sand has this tinge, so do the stones and the rocks. This is now the 5th wonder of the world that I visited. 6 if you include the last wonder of the ancient world that's still remaining, the pyramids of Giza. After this, there's just 2 more, which is Machu Picchu in Peru and Christ the Redeemer in Rio. But what I like about this compared to the other world wonders that I've already been to is you can find quiet moments. It's so large. There are so many different trails you could take. You could come back here multiple times and still not have seen everything. Just spectacular tombs lying around. And you can't quite get that at some of the other world wonders. There's always people there. Whereas here you can sort of sit and find your own moment of silence, which I really like. And it certainly puts Petra right amongst the top of the very best world wonders. Down here is the theatre, which I'm going to walk to. I think I need to work my way down this way and then swing back around. At its peak under Aretas IV, which overlapped the time of Christ around 2,000 years ago, the city was home to around 30,000 people, so it was quite a population centre for that time. It was a fully functioning city with scholars, scribes, people building small canals to divert water, all sorts. Here we are by the Nabatean theatre, not Roman theatre. This was built originally by the Nabateans, and when the Romans came, they added to it. Heading up the steps towards the royal tombs, and wow, no less impressive. Some of these royal tombs really retain an atmosphere. My voice is echoing now. Wow, so huge. Lying in their tomb, whoever was in here would have been facing this view. Out towards the rest of the city and spectacular craggy landscape. This tomb here might be one of my favourites. It's unassuming but still spectacular, kind of imperfect, but what a view it has, and frequently visitors ignoring it on their way to something else, but it doesn't care. It's still there, overlooking everything else. Definitely one of the coolest tombs. Lots of colour. Just when you think you've seen one that impresses you more than the others, you see another one and another one. And as goes the name of royal tombs, these are where Petra's most lavish inhabitants chose to have as their resting place. The scale of this place has really just dawned on me, even though I knew it was a large area, but just as far as the eye can see in that direction, there are just more tombs. And then the monastery, one of the most famous places at the site, is all the way behind those cliffs in the distance over there. I'm hiking to it this afternoon after lunch. The city centre leads on to the Romans' colonnaded street that they built here, right next to the riverbed of the Wadi Musa. All sorts of trade would have happened here. Products from East Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, spices from India, before the trade routes then changed to prefer the Red Sea over Petra's route through the desert. Here is what marks the end of the colonnaded street, and behind me is one of the major Nabatean temples that was also, like this street, damaged by earthquakes over the years. Qasr al-Bint, or the Temple of Dushares. It's one of the few freestanding structures here at Petra. Originally built by the Nabateans, it was then later adopted by the Romans, and like the other temple, it was one of the most important for the Nabateans. After just stopping for lunch at the restaurant behind me, which is called the BASIN restaurant, I am now making my way towards the monastery in the afternoon here. For the buffet, it costs 17 Jordanian dinars for all you can eat. They had some good stuff actually. They had makluba and lots of different dessert stuff as well, so all of that was great. It is a bit expensive, but it's probably one of your only options apart from just picking up various snacks. And if you want to hike to the monastery in the afternoon, it's probably good to store up on some energy because there's 800 steps to climb to reach the monastery.
I will give you a nice Ferrari.
So as you may have noticed, there are people offering you and children offering you rides to get up the steeper parts of certain areas, to get to viewpoints and here to reach the monastery. It's up to you whether you want to do it or not. They have donkeys, there are some with camels, there are some larger donkeys, some are really small. It's up to you whether you want to take up that opportunity, but I want to use my own 2 legs to do the walk. Now starting the climb up the 800 steps or so to reach the monastery here in the afternoon. As I've mentioned, it is very quiet at the moment. However, now we're in the afternoon hours, I do see these steps becoming that little bit more crowded. The big tour buses or day trippers or groups have arrived, and I think most people opt to do the monastery in the afternoon, having visited all the stuff in the morning. So I think that's a big factor in why that changes slightly. But if you arrive around the time of sunrise, then you should have a lot of space to yourself. You can see more tombs as you walk along the trail, and more impressive rocks and cliffs. This is the mid-afternoon reality of Petra. Quite a few people ahead, although I'm sure it's not as many as normal. After climbing the 800 or so steps, now here by the monastery, one of the most iconic buildings here in Petra. It gets its name from the fact that there are crosses carved on the inside, but it's Nabatean, not Byzantine. And wow, it is spectacular. The sand is blowing everywhere at the moment. I've taken my quick opportunity to film. You couldn't open your eyes a second ago and everyone was having to cover their things and their eyes from the sand. Hey, so I'm now back here in my hostel room. I'm staying in a hostel here. It's called Nomads Hostel. Really good. I think I've paid like £18 for 2 nights, so less than £10 a night. I stopped filming after the monastery. The wind was extremely strong and the sand was blowing everywhere. It was going all over my camera, and I'd already used up 1 battery, and then the second battery went, and I didn't want to go and find some cafe in the middle of Petra to go and charge it and then walk back and continue the video. The video was already super long probably as it is. So I hope this gave you a good idea of what Petra's like, and when it's a little bit quieter, how peaceful it can get. Tomorrow I'm getting up early again and I'm taking a local bus to Wadi Rum, where I'm going to be doing a desert tour and an overnight stay. So I'm really looking forward to that. Wadi Rum is a beautiful natural protected area of desert landscape and otherworldly rock formations. See you on the next one.